Pope Francis has lost his temper as he greeted crowds at the end of a visit to Mexico. He was seen shouting at people who'd inadvertently pulled him onto a man in a wheelchair. Pope Francis is using his trip to Mexico to highlight the suffering of thousands of migrants who make the perilous journey across the border into the US every year.
It was uncharacteristic anger for a man admired for his public warmth. As he greeted crowds at a stadium, Pope Francis was pulled so hard he fell onto a man in a wheelchair. He was seen scolding those responsible and shouting, "Don't be selfish," but he recovered and placed his hand on the man's head. There was a smoother reception when he visited a jail. Prisoners sang for him when the Pope arrived at one of Mexico's most violent prisons. 20 inmates died here during a riot a few years ago, but prisoners listened calmly as the Pope urged them to look for a better future.
Help put an end to this cycle of violence and exclusion. Work so that this society, which uses people and discards them, will not go on claiming victims.
The Pope's visit to Mexico has focused entirely on the injustices facing the poor and marginalised. Many fall into drugs and crime, especially in the border town of Juarez, once considered the world's murder capital. 450,000 worshippers came to hear his message. The Pope visited the border where many Mexicans risk their lives trying to migrate north.
We want to bring a message to the Pope that all immigrants have rights and have dreams that must be fulfilled.
11 million Mexicans have slipped into the US undocumented, where many call for their deportation. The Pope's visit is seen by many as criticism of anti-immigrant policies. Anne Barker, ABC News.